Alright, welcome back everybody. I know you haven't seen me in a while. I apologize. I know I said I was going to try to do this project and show you a video every couple weeks is what I decided on, but really that just hasn't been possible for me. So the reason you haven't seen a video isn't because I'm hiding my progress, it's because I haven't made any. So you'll see there the mill is basically in the same condition that we left it in. The only real difference is I did build a new spindle ring light for it. So if you want the file for that, let me know. I can post the CAD file and you can 3D print one of those. Just uses some LED ring lights that cost like $5 off of Amazon. But the mill's been up and running. It's been making plenty of parts for me. I just actually finished milling this Glock 21 slide. So if you, I'll put a link to the time up on the screen right now. If you're just here to watch me mill firearm parts, then you can skip to the time on the screen. But I figured I'd give you guys a quick update on why you haven't seen any progress, and hopefully the fact that you will be seeing progress, and hopefully it's good. So 11 days ago, my son was born, so he came a little bit early. His due date's actually tomorrow. He's home, he's happy, he's healthy, but that did take some time I wanted to take out of my schedule, and I held off on making any products or any videos and using the mill. So it's been a couple weeks that I've been having some downtime, and I've loved it. My wife is getting healed up and feeling better now, so she can start taking care of my daughter and my son while I come down and play in the basement here. So I'll try to minimize that so that my wife can heal up and my family can get some time with everybody together. But enough of that. So the real reason before that I haven't uploaded any videos is because I've made some pretty substantial changes in my plans for the mill. So I'll go ahead and show you that. A couple other things that I've gotten recently. So if you follow me on Instagram, you've inevitably seen this. I did move it. So it was sitting up here with the Tormach height gauge that I have here, used to measure the TTS tools. Was sitting up here on top of this bench, but a 22-inch height gauge just doesn't really fit up there. So this thing is massive. You can see the base alone of it, how large it is. Turn it on. I was in need of a larger height gauge that I wanted one. I wasn't in need of one that had this hand wheel, so you can see you can traverse the height gauge up and down using this hand wheel. This is an import. I'm really happy with the quality of it. Again, I can post the link to the got this on Amazon, I believe. Yep, a link to that. It makes my 36-inch granite surface plate, and it just makes it look tiny. So it takes up almost a third of the surface plate. So I guess now that I upgraded the height gauge to a big 22-inch height gauge, I guess it's time to update my surface plate. So unrelated to why I'm filming this. So the changes that I've made, obviously I'm still going to go with the heart of this is going to be that 5 horsepower motor. I'm still going to put the epoxy granite in, still the same plans to put 2 struts on, one on either side of the spindle to counterbalance it. I originally was going to go with number 6 wire, decided to go with number 10 from the VFD to the motor itself, because number 6 is just honestly too big and way more than I need for that motor. I went with a new enclosure. The old enclosure that I had was just too small to fit everything where I wanted it. I was waiting on some components, and when they came in I just decided I don't really want to cram everything in there. So I've got my fuse blocks, a contactor, so that's what's gonna shut and provide power to the VFD once I turn my control on, and I got a little extra power supply here, and my fan for the housing. So this is going to get wired up. This still is going to be the next project that I do. The largest change that I've made is I decided to go with servos. So instead of doing this later and maybe regretting it, I'm upgrading to ClearPath servos in every axis. They are hopefully going to be well worth it. They were pricey, cost me like almost $1,500 for these and the wires that I'm going to need to install them, but I'm really looking forward to it. I believe the one I have for the Z is going to be a bit underpowered, so I may have to return that. They do have a 90-day return policy where they'll let me swap it out for a different one, assuming I didn't damage it. So dog's going crazy upstairs. So there's one major thing that I'm changing there. I'm going to make the spacer out of a single piece of aluminum now. I did think about doing that out of two pieces. I actually bought two pieces. Decided instead I'm going to make this out of one hunk of aluminum. So this is a 4-inch piece of aluminum that I'm going to mill down to the correct spacer height. So one of the most exciting for me parts of this is I alluded to a future upgrade of spindle bearings and decided that I would let that be a future project. Well, the future is here. So these are going to be the new bearings that I use, or one of the new bearings that I use. I'm going to upgrade every bearing that is in the spindle to include the actual spindle bearings themselves and the bearings that support the I guess I'll walk over and show you. So there are 3 bearings in the spindle itself, and then there are 2 bearings up in the top here that support the forces to the top of the spindle, and all 5 of those are going to get replaced. Hopefully doing that, and this is some Kluber Isoflex, not a cheap lubricant for bearings, but the go-to if you're doing spindle bearings. So I have on order a 7-inch diameter V-belt pulley or V-belt sheave for the motor. So I'm going to have 7 inches there. I have a bunch of V-belts and a couple more coming, so I can make sure I get the right size. These are 3L. I may have to go to A size, which is a little bit bigger than this if I have any issues, but I've decided to go with a V-belt instead of a timing pulley. And unfortunately, I cannot find for the life of me the correct ratio and the correct pull or sheave that I would need to replace the stock spindle word I'm looking for pulley here. So this is the part that moves the spindle, and you can see on the PM30 it's a 2-speed, so you have high speed here and low speed here. This is a 50 millimeter diameter shaft that it presses down on with an 8 millimeter key on it. 50 millimeter shaft. The standard key size of that would be 14 to 16 millimeters. So in all ways, this is just a very odd shaft that I have here that I need a V-sheave for. Also, I can't afford to make this too large. So if I were to have, like, say, a 6-inch sheave here and then try to fit a 7-inch sheave behind it, that's just too large. It physically wouldn't work in here, even with my spacer that I plan to put back here, and it wouldn't give me the gearing or the speed ratio that I want. My plan is to try to get as close to 10,000 RPM on this spindle as possible. So instead, hopefully it'll be a cool project for you guys to watch. What we are going to do is we're going to take... I'll break everything here, trying to move a piece of aluminum. We are going to take this 3 3/4 inch round hunk of aluminum, and we are going to machine a V-sheave for this mill. And that might sound a little bit boring, and it might be, but the way we're going to do that is we are going to turn this mill into a upright lathe. So the right way to make round parts is with a lathe, not with a mill that doesn't interpolate holes perfectly. So we're going to use a boring bar to perfectly make the press fit diameter here, and then once we're all done with the outside dimensions, we are going to make the actual sheave part of it by mounting a lathe tool in this vise and chucking up the sheave, the roughed out sheave, into the spindle and turning this machine into a lathe, a CNC lathe. So that should be pretty interesting if you guys want to stick around and watch that. That will be a video all on its own. So those few things and waiting on a bunch of components have been the reason that the major reason I haven't made any progress in this video. I ordered a bunch of wrong components. That contactor right there was wrong. It took forever for some things to get here from overseas, and with COVID-19 things just being slow, me having to work, I'm an essential employee at my day job. You know, thank heavens for that I haven't lost my job. My wife did get furloughed during all of this, and everything's working out, everything's going great. But now, you know, it's time for me to hit the ground running again and try to get this project done. This is something that I really want to do. I know people out there want to see, so we're going to knock it out together. But hopefully, that was a little insight in why you haven't seen me and why I haven't made any progress. It's all going to come together here. We're going to make this CNC upgrade, and we're going to get this machine having a 5 horsepower motor on it, which that's ridiculous, right? What we're doing here is stupid, and this machine is not rigid enough for 5 horsepower, but we're going to do it anyway, and we're going to see if it works, and you'll follow along, and if it doesn't, you get to see me fail with you know, like $6,000 worth of upgrades to a machine that's working perfectly fine the way it is, because I don't know, that's what we do, right? So yeah, link in the bottom description for that awesome height gauge. I will put a link to the servo motors. I did contact an applications engineer over at Technic. They were great to talk to. Their return policy looks like it's awesome, so if that motor doesn't work out the way that I want it to in the Z, we'll swap it out and we'll get the right one. But hopefully you guys can benefit from some of this. Something I haven't talked about, sorry, I don't want this video to be 2 hours long, so I may end up splitting that firearms video into a second video, because not everybody here wants to watch that. But something I haven't really talked about, I've alluded to on the Instagram page, I am finally getting rid of these crappy import, I shouldn't say crappy, they do the job, right? These are from Precision Matthews. They're obviously Chinese made, and like most things that are Chinese made, they do like 90% of everything you would want them to do for, you know, 60% the cost. But they have some issues, and I'm not going to go into it right now. I'm not knocking these vices, they've worked great. It's just time for me to upgrade. I do have 2 of them. The other one's off the mill right there. I was doing some routine cleaning of it. If you haven't heard of a company, EmLock, I am getting 2 EmLock Duo Slims, so 2 station vices. I'm getting 2 of them, so I'll have 4 stations on the mill. They're the perfect footprint for a mill this size, something like the Tormach or the Sile version of mills. They really are just perfect for this line of mill that I have, and maybe some of you out there have. So dealing with the owner of it's been great. We've been back and forthing on Instagram. He's had some supply issues in getting the vices done as quick as he wanted, but that's the way of the world right now, right? We have to be accommodating as customers and entrepreneurs, right? And it just really needs to, some of us need to come together and be okay with hiccups that we didn't expect, right? It's the way of the world right now. So I'm really excited to get them in, and I'll be as honest with you as I can be. I am building a bit of rapport with the owner of the company. He's been, again, great with me. He's helped me with a lot of this upgrade and giving me ideas, but I won't lie to you on if the vices are crap, which I don't expect. Then I'll tell you they are. So yeah, that's where we're at. Hopefully I don't want to make a promise to you. We'll say within 2 weeks, I will upload a video of actually doing something with this motor upgrade. It will definitely, the first video will be getting that VFD hooked up and that motor spinning, and that could probably be in a couple days, honestly, assuming my wife is up to wrangling 2 kids while I play down here for a few hours. And then from there, it's going to be taken off running. So this machine doesn't sit idle. I don't, you know, it is for a hobby, but I do make money on this machine, and I can't afford to just take it down for 6 weeks and slowly work through a project. It's just not my style, and it's not a luxury I have right now. So the plan is to knock it all out in one go. Take the machine down once, do the epoxy granite fill, have all the parts machined. Once I take it down, I don't have a mill anymore, so I need to make sure that every piece and part that I need to make for the mill is made on the mill before I take it apart. And then we're going to do it all up. We are probably going to put the limit switches finally on the machine. These servo motors are servo motors, so they have encoders built into them. These are the enhanced versions, so they have 6,400 pulses per revolution, and they can self-home. So once they're triggered on a limit switch, as long as it's within a half a rotation, which I might be losing you and getting a little too in the weeds, but I have 5mm pitch ball screws, about 0.2 inches, as long as it's within a half a rotation, so 100,000ths of an inch of that home switch. The motor will spin itself until the encoder knows its exact position within, you know, a few thousandths of a degree, and that'll be perfectly home. So I don't do any 0-point work holding, and I don't do a lot of setups where I turn the machine off and come back to the part still sitting in the vise. So it hasn't mattered between turning the machine off and back on, having repeatable zeros. But it's something that may come up, and an advantage these servos award me is being able to turn the machine off, or power outage, just powering it back up again, rehoming, and getting right back to where I was without having to set up the Heimer again and pick up a work coordinate system. So slowly we're getting this machine to where I want it. If you aren't aware, I was going to sort of move on to bigger and better things. I was moving houses and had a plan to build a shop, and I was going to get a Sile X7, and all that fell through with COVID-19. I'm not moving anymore for a couple years, and I really just had a bad taste in my mouth from the Sile company, and I won't get into that. But the plan is, so after we go crazy and get this mill exactly how we want it, I'm going to do the thing that hopefully all of you out there do also. I am gonna immediately upgrade to a much better machine. So I don't ever plan on getting rid of the PM30, and I do plan on continuing and upgrading it and getting it exactly like I want, putting one of the Saunders Machine Works fixture plates on it. But you know, fingers crossed, within the next couple of years I plan to have a VF2 SS in a shop that's built, an outbuilding in the new house that I plan to build. So you know, business is going well. This is a hobby of mine that does make me some money, and I'm willing to invest that money back into my hobby, in hopes that it gets recuperated one day. So that's the plan. Is this mill is going to be unrecognizable and awesome in the next month or so, and then we'll have it for a couple years. I'll film a bunch of videos of using it, and we're going to put that spindle test it to the limit, see what breaks first eventually. Is it the machine? I don't literally mean break, but what the weak point is. Spoiler alert, it's going to be that column right there. Yeah, you can see how small that column is. That's my hand. So that is definitely going to be the weak point of the machine in rigidity, and we put a 90-pound or 70-pound motor up there, and we'll see how well it works. But I'm excited to do this, and I've rambled enough, so thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.